in the atmosphere. So a lot of fuel for these thunderstorms to get going tomorrow, and that showing up in the instability here. And you see that it's going to be highest in parts of Oklahoma and North Texas, and also in Kansas. Will be some stronger wind aloft as well. So even though there is a little less instability farther north, there's going to be stronger wind aloft. So we lose a little of one ingredient, but a little bit more of another. So here's a look at the model forecast, and you'll notice that the storms really start to blossom going into tomorrow evening. This is the model depicting very intense storms developing in the Panhandle there in Texas and also into Oklahoma. So, all the things that we just talked about, that instability and those stronger winds aloft, the model is considering all of that. And it's not necessarily that it's going to happen in exactly these areas, but rather it's the idea that we're looking for here. And the idea is that there could be these very large supercell storms that are entirely capable of producing very large hail and damaging wind, and maybe tornadoes as well. And they're going to be, really busting out here across the Panhandle in the western parts of Oklahoma into tomorrow evening. And then we'll see some storms around Chicago as well. There we go into late Tuesday, some lingering storms, maybe some of that making its way into St. Louis in the overnight, and still a little bit of activity in the Central Plains. On the Torcon, it's not going to be a huge tornado threat tomorrow. We've got a 2 to 3 on the Torcon, but it is going to be affecting some highly populated areas, including, of course, Chicago. So there is some chance that we'll see severe storms and possibly tornadoes in Chicago tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening. Then into North Texas, we're also looking at a possibility for some tornadoes here in the Panhandle. 2 to 3 is what we've got on the Torcon for tomorrow. I also want to show you the hail threat, and that will be more likely farther south. We talked about the fact that the instability is going to be greater farther to the south, and instability is directly related to how tall the cloud gets. And how tall the cloud gets is directly related to how large the hail gets, because that means that more of the cloud is going to be above the freezing level. So when the cloud punches way up into the atmosphere, it might get just above that freezing level, so we start to get some freezing. If it gets well above that freezing level, then you've got a significant part of that area where hail is being generated, and that is exactly what we're expecting here across the central and southern plains tomorrow. So that's where the supercells will be likely to produce large hail, 2 inches or greater in the Texas Panhandle, as well as northwestern Oklahoma, and also into southeast Kansas. And the threat for damaging winds is going to be all along that area, from the Panhandle all the way up into the Midwest. And that, again, a function of not so much the instability, but more of the wind that is in the atmosphere in general there into the western parts of the lakes. Mark, over to you.
All right, thanks, Carol. Well, we are taking a live look now at Kansas City and Chicago, and these are areas that are going to be subject to some pretty big thunderstorms, the way it looks starting overnight in the case of Kansas City towards